If there was ever a Hollywood star who seemed to carry nothing but sunshine wherever she went, it was Doris Day. With her bright smile, warm voice, and girl-next-door charm, she was one of the most beloved actresses America ever produced. But behind all that brightness was a life full of real pain, difficult marriages, financial betrayal, and personal loss. The woman the world saw on screen and the woman who lived her actual life were two very different people. If this kind of story is something you enjoy, the real, unfiltered truth behind famous names, then hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. We dig deep into the lives of Hollywood legends every week, and you will not want to miss what comes next. Doris Day was born Doris Marion Kappelhoff on April 3, 1922, in Cincinnati, Ohio. She was the youngest child of Alma Sophia and William Joseph Kappelhoff, a German-American family. Her father worked as a choir director and music teacher, and her mother was a homemaker. Doris had two older brothers, though the eldest had passed away before she was even born. Her father was a gifted musician, and Doris clearly inherited some of that talent. But when it came to warmth and affection, it was her mother who gave her the most love. Her father was emotionally distant, and it was later revealed he had been having affairs. When Doris was just 10 years old, her parents divorced. It was an early lesson that the people you love can let you down, one she would learn again and again throughout her life. From a young age, Doris fell in love with dancing. She was nervous at first, but she pushed through it and quickly showed real talent. She joined a local dance group and began making a name for herself, with many people around her believing she had a genuine future in it. Dancing was her dream, and she was well on her way to chasing it. But then, in a single terrible moment, that dream was taken from her. The night before her family was supposed to move to Los Angeles, Doris and some friends were involved in a horrific accident when a freight train struck the car they were in. She was only 15 years old. The impact shattered her right leg. In her memoir, Doris Day, Her Own Story, she described dragging herself away from the wreckage and then looking down to see the jagged ends of broken bones sticking out through her skin before she lost consciousness. She spent months recovering in the hospital. Doctors were unsure how fully her leg would heal. The dancing career she had worked so hard for was over before it had even properly begun. But something unexpected happened during those long months of lying in a hospital bed. Doris started singing along to the radio. The songs of Duke Ellington, Glenn Miller, Benny Goodman, and Tommy Dorsey filled the room, and she sang with all of them. The singer who captured her attention the most was Ella Fitzgerald. There was something in the way Fitzgerald shaped every word, something casual yet clean and precise, that Doris found completely captivating. She would sing along, trying to catch those subtle qualities in her own voice. What had started as something to pass the time during recovery was quietly becoming a new calling. When her mother noticed how naturally the singing came to her, she arranged lessons with a vocal coach named Grace Rain. By just the third session, Rain was convinced that Doris had something truly special. She started offering her 3 lessons a week for the price of 1. 8 months later, Doris landed her first professional singing job as the vocalist on a local radio program called Carlin's Carnival on WLW, and she also performed at a Cincinnati restaurant called Charlie Yee's Shanghai. It was not long before a bigger opportunity found her. During one of her radio appearances, a well-known American bandleader named Barney Rapp happened to hear her. He was searching for a female vocalist for his band and invited her to audition. He had already heard nearly 200 singers before she walked in. He chose her. At the time, she was still going by her birth name, and in 1939, Rapp suggested she come up with something shorter and catchier for radio audiences. Inspired by a song she had performed beautifully called Day After Day, she became Doris Day. The name stuck, and so did her rising career. She began working with musicians such as Bob Crosby, Jimmy James, and Les Brown, eventually touring with Les Brown's band for close to 2 years. During this period, she also provided vocals for Bob Hope's popular weekly radio program. It was during this time that she recorded one of the songs she would forever be associated with, Sentimental Journey.
The track became a massive hit and was widely considered the unofficial anthem of World War II servicemen. Her voice had found her audience. Her path into film came through the impression she made on songwriters Jules Stein and Sammy Cahn, who heard her sing Embraceable You and were blown away. Their enthusiasm helped open the door to Hollywood, and she was recommended for a role in a musical called Romance on the High Seas. She still had to audition just like everyone else, but the film's director, Michael Curtis, personally selected her. When she found out she had the part, Doris was stunned and openly told him she had no acting experience whatsoever. Curtis was not bothered. He told her that her natural, freckle-faced, all-American look was exactly what he wanted.
Then came Alec Baldwin. Nobody expected a romantic comedy to turn into a war zone, but that is essentially what happened on the set of It's Complicated in 2009. On screen, Streep and Baldwin looked like they were having a wonderful time, trading witty lines and playing off each other with apparent ease. Behind the scenes, director Nancy Meyers was quietly managing a very difficult situation. She had hoped that Baldwin's spontaneous, improvisational energy would complement Streep's careful precision. What she got instead was chaos. Baldwin would change lines mid-scene, add jokes that were not in the script, and shift the rhythm of a scene without any warning. For Streep, that kind of unpredictability was not freedom, it was sabotage. She believed deeply that even in comedy, everything had to be rooted in emotional honesty. You could not just throw things at the wall and see what stuck. Baldwin, by contrast, believed that the best moments came from spontaneity, that truth revealed itself in the heat of the moment rather than through careful rehearsal. Neither of them was willing to bend toward the other, and every scene they shared became a quiet tug-of-war. Baldwin has since laughed off the tension when asked about it in interviews, as though it were all a bit of harmless chaos. But Streep, by all accounts, never softened her view of what happened on that set. Perhaps the most revealing name on the list was Jack Nicholson, because this was not a story about a difficult collaboration, it was a story about a collaboration that never happened at all, and the reason why tells you a great deal about how seriously Streep took her craft. Throughout the late 1970s and into the 1980s, studios repeatedly tried to pair the two actors together. They were both enormous names, and the industry believed a film with both of them in it would practically guarantee box office success. But every time a project was proposed, it fell apart before shooting ever began. The reason was simple. After any preliminary meeting or table read, Streep made it quietly but unmistakably clear that she was not interested. The source of her resistance was not personal dislike in the conventional sense, it was deeper than that. She saw Nicholson's approach to acting as representing everything she found troubling about the film industry, an embrace of instinct and charisma over discipline and research. Nicholson was famous for his swagger, his natural magnetism, his belief that real talent did not need to be overthought. In one interview, he even joked that preparation was, in his words, intellectual masturbation. For Streep, that comment was not funny. Acting was a moral responsibility to her. You prepared because you owed it to the character, to the story, and to the real people whose experiences might be reflected in the work. Mocking that preparation was not just a difference of opinion, it was, in her eyes, a betrayal of what the craft demanded. Casting director Juliet Taylor once remarked bluntly that Nicholson represented everything Streep thought was wrong with the culture of stardom. After that, Streep quietly vetoed any project that had his name attached to it. At Hollywood events over the years, the two rarely exchanged more than a brief, obligatory nod. Their body language, according to those who witnessed it, could chill a room. A different kind of frustration shaped Streep's feelings about Gwyneth Paltrow. This was not about clashing working styles or on-set conflicts. It was about something broader, something that had more to do with what Paltrow represented than anything she personally said or did. When Paltrow rose to fame in the 1990s, her path looked effortless to those watching from the outside. She was the daughter of actress Blythe Danner and director Bruce Paltrow, and she moved through an industry that had known her family for years. Doors opened for her that stayed closed for most people.
Critics praised her elegance and her natural screen presence, and success seemed to arrive without the same grinding, decade-long struggle that had defined Streep's own rise. Streep had spent years treating her work as a sacred discipline, months of research for every role, total immersion in her characters, the relentless pursuit of authenticity. Watching someone ascend to the top on the strength of a famous last name in perfect timing felt like an insult to everything she had sacrificed. Then came 1999. That year, Paltrow won the Academy Award for Best Actress for her role in Shakespeare in Love. Streep had also delivered a demanding performance that year in One True Thing, but she did not take home the prize. Publicly, she maintained her composure, smiling graciously as she always did. Privately, friends say she described that year's Oscar race as a marketing contest dressed up as an award. She never mentioned Paltrow directly, but most people who heard her say it understood exactly what she meant. In later interviews, when asked which younger actresses she admired, Streep consistently praised Cate Blanchett, Amy Adams, and Jessica Chastain, all of them known for their intense preparation and commitment to difficult roles. Paltrow's name almost never came up. But none of the names on this list carried the weight of Dustin Hoffman. What happened between Streep and Hoffman was not a philosophical disagreement or a clash of personalities. It was a specific moment that left a permanent scar, and it happened in front of the cameras while they were making Kramer vs. Kramer in 1979. During one of the film's most emotionally intense scenes, Hoffman suddenly slapped Streep across the face without any warning. It was not in the script, it had not been discussed or agreed upon, and for Streep, that was not acting. It was a violation. Hoffman had long been a devoted follower of method acting, a philosophy that encouraged actors to blur the line between themselves and their characters in order to find deeper authenticity. He believed in unpredictability, in real reactions, in the power of genuine surprise. But Streep saw things completely differently. For her, acting was built on trust. Every choice in a scene, every gesture and emotional moment had to be created together with the other actor and with mutual respect. Being physically surprised mid-scene was not an act of artistic courage, it was a breach of that trust. She said so plainly later. That was overstepping, that was not acting. The words were few, but they carried everything.
Director Robert Benton spent much of that production trying to hold the balance between Hoffman's explosive instincts and Streep's structured approach. The tension between them was real enough that crew members later said some of the film's most powerful moments felt less like performances and more like genuine emotional eruptions caught on camera. In the end, Kramer vs. Kramer swept the Oscars. Hoffman won Best Actor and Streep won Best Supporting Actress. From the outside, it looked like a perfect night, two brilliant performances celebrated on Hollywood's biggest stage. But Streep walked away from that experience with something that went beyond a trophy. She walked away with scars she never tried to hide. She never worked with Hoffman again, and in the years that followed, she chose her words about the experience carefully, describing it as professionally valuable, but personally intolerable. 6 actors, 6 grudges, not one of them forgiven. And the remarkable thing is, not just that these conflicts existed, but that Streep kept them so quietly for so long. She never made public scenes, never gave bitter interviews, never let the resentment spill into her public image. She simply carried it and worked around it and continued making extraordinary films as if none of it had happened. But it had happened. And now that she has finally spoken, the stories behind some of cinema's most celebrated collaborations look very different than they did before.